would perhaps begin with some of my kind of sense impressions about the film. I'm sure it vary from people to people. But before I get to that, a quick kind of, I was very curious about somebody in Germany getting interested in a subject in all the way to in Caracas, in Venezuela. I'm sure you have to navigate quite a bit in many ways to get to the subject in the film, enter a forbidding building with lots of stories around it. And then the film has subsequently taken you places, so to speak. It's done the festival rounds. So I'm very curious as to how did this idea come about for you? How did you go about, shall we say, implementing this idea and deciding to kind of take the plunge, going to Venezuela? How did you get access? What was in your mind? How were these things coming about?
Yeah, sometimes it's really difficult to say what interests you or what triggers you, no? And it's kind of mostly like intuition or feeling when there is a topic or something like that, like the story of this building. When I say, okay, this is a real story I want to narrate. I was lying in the bed and reading an article in the newspaper about general situation of Caracas and crime and politics and all this stuff, and there was like 2 sentences written about this tower, and then I said, oh, it's a squatted bank. That seemed so incredible for me, but also very positive after the bank crisis in Europe where so many people had suffered, and I said, okay, to squat a bank, that's the solution. And yeah, the journalists also described it was really hard, or they didn't get it inside this tower, just could describe it from outside, so that triggered my interest, and I said, okay, that would be a great idea to shoot there inside, to explore this building and to know what's going to happen inside. And so that was the initial idea, and then I had the chance to study abroad for quite a long time in Bogotá, in Colombia, so in the neighbor country of Venezuela. And I had to decide in between like 4 days to go there, and because there was one place left. And I said, okay, let's go to Colombia. At least I'm closer to the tower, because that was also why I wanted to go to Colombia to shoot this movie. And then from Colombia I started to make research and try to get contact with people. Also, yeah, I made contacts to the journalists and TV stations, and nothing worked, so the only possibility was to go directly there and try to knock on the door at the end. Yeah. And then everything was closed. They didn't get interested in another negative view of their building. There were so many like defaming videos on YouTube at that time in 2012 when I was shooting there. So people just didn't want to have any kind of people or any kind of person with a camera. So it was not easy to get inside at that time. But somehow I get the telephone number of Gladys, the secretary, and yes, I called her several times a day, and then I heard some interest in her voice, and finally we met up, and she said, okay, I cannot decide by myself, but I have to talk to the board members also, if you can get access to our place. But finally, yeah, we had a meeting, and then she let me inside, and that was the first step, and then everything came.
Another thing which struck me was the way the people inside the building organized themselves. Call it solidarity, call it structure. So there was an elaborate hierarchy which also looked like the building too when he was drawing out. There was this little tower kind of thing. And it struck me that while on the one hand they are kind of outside the state apparatus. So Chavez is in the background speaking. There's all that background stuff going on. The banks have fallen and so on. The architect at the end saying it's a cancer and so on. There's that happening. On the other hand, forms of self-organization, the meetings and kind of rule enforcement, all of that. Was that something that that comes across quite strikingly, and how the problems that people are facing and how they're trying to resolve them? Something very similar to the world outside, so to speak, where too there are rules. So I was again intrigued the fact that that in Germany the contrast is quite striking, where all of this is very zoned out, everything is laid out, carved out, and that's the way it is, as opposed to what you saw there. Was that something that you discovered along the way, or how did this motive come out? And I thought that was something very striking in the film.
Of course, yeah. That really I discovered by the way, on the way to exploring the tower, no? Because I didn't have any idea before what was going on inside. And actually the people from outside told me, don't go inside because you won't get out anymore, no? So many prejudices because nobody was inside there. There were just all these articles and videos were from an outsider perspective, but I was interested in the inside view of the building. So, and then I discovered it, no, what's going on there. And actually the scene when Gladys is like drawing the organization system and she's making the draw of the building was one of the most complicated because she was not able to draw this, no? It was so inside her, this form of organization, and she knew everything and was so involved in it and made it really good. She made really, really good jobs inside, and but was not able to draw it, you know? That was also, impressive for me, but at the end we managed also. It was also difficult to shoot with the light, I don't know, that makes you think also about informality in general, no? So you often these like words are being used without thinking so much about it, I think, no? And this is a good example for informality officially, but what is more informal, like corruption of like state construction sites, no, in all over the country, also in Europe, and or maybe is it more formal to this example of self-organization we see in the film on this tower, and this is something I thought afterwards. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I think your background you studied sociology. I think must have helped, because then you don't take things at face value, and the more complicated it is, the more interesting it gets, I guess.
Yeah.
The other thing which struck me, I mean, when you're saying this person couldn't draw it in that kind of structural sense, but all had it, it reminds me of Bordeaux, for example, Thierry Bordeaux, who has this thing of habitus, that you have a feel for the game, and you get through kind of being there, you know. So it's like playing football, you know what the rules of the game are. And it takes somebody to say, okay, now here's the manager, you're going to stand here, you're going to walk here, you're going to pass here, etc., etc. The other thing I found very striking was the sense of home, so to speak. That while the film there's a sense of, it is grim, and perhaps the grimness is because we as outsiders are watching the film, knowing fully well that this building can go crashing anytime, it can be demolished, as it is finally. So the world outside is a bad place, just as the world outside thinks that this place inside is a bad place. So the world outside is a difficult place, and the kind of the sword, so to speak, the sword is on there, it's hanging there. But at the same time, in an everyday sense, people are building their homes, they're going about their daily business with remarkable kind of ingenuity, enterprise, and a sense of home. The flower pots. So to get inside those private spaces, so how did you? Is this something that kind of struck you as you were filming it? Where the home is not just four walls, and there is much more to it, and then you humanize the subjects further, and you humanize the sense of space as well inside.
So this is the great wish of everybody inside of this building, no? And this is also this human kind of thing. Everybody of us in any kind of society wants to have just a home, and like a secure home, no? And a lot of these people I met in the tower, they've been living in very difficult and violent conditions, also in Caracas, in these lomas, it's called there, in the outskirt hills, and where a lot of gang violence is going on, a lot of murders every night, and for example, also this guy from Colombia with a red shirt with a little parrot, he had so many bad experiences also in these suburbs of Caracas, so for him it was a really, really secure place not to live in the tower, yeah, and just also we see in the last scene the old woman just wants to have from home this, from Chavez this home, and this is the same discussion when you go to Germany to a city playground where like middle class mothers are playing with their children. They are also talking just about a new home or new ideas of a home. You know, this is something like a universal wish of everybody of us.
Well, the irony being that the sense of sanctuary, the sense of being secure, home, dwelling, call it what you may, being inside the building is contrasted with people outside who don't feel secure, who don't feel, who feel this blight in the middle of the downtown business district or central place, and that is the very reason why people are feeling insecure about the place. And so I found that the idea of dwelling itself is actually relative, in a sense that so for people outside, they're seeing this building as the eyesore which has made their place insecure, and therefore they're feeling not very at home. For the people inside, this is what is giving them the sense of place and so on. But at the same time, the reality is that, like with all of us, inside, outside, apart, we are not in control over our own destinies, and there's all kinds of things happening. Policy, God knows what you would say, but basically, that there is all that happening outside, and there is the sense of everyday things. But this grimness thing, the way you shot the film, was that intentional or very darkish? You kept it.
Yeah, of course. But this was also something that I felt, no, when I spoke to the people, not just to the people which appear in the film, also to other ones. Everybody was afraid that they could have been kicked out the next day. So yeah, that was the greatest fear, and at the end they managed also to fight for the rights not to get these social housing complexes in the suburbs, but it was totally insecure for them for more than 7 years, and they tried always to get access to the city administration for legalization of this tower in this form of cooperative or community, but didn't have any success, no, as it's also told at the end of the film. So I could feel that really, and I tried to also to edit it in this way, that you could feel this fear or of the people.
Last question before we open it up. As a filmmaker, particularly difficult moment in the film for you personally, where you start scratching your head, it's just not happening, and then perhaps there's an exhilarating moment as well, which goes with it, which makes you feel it all come around. Does it arrive after editing, before? What goes?
One particular moment. There were so many moments. Maybe one was in the first days when I didn't get access to the tower. We woke up very early in the morning. At 5 o'clock it was dark still, and then we got lost in a very violent neighborhood of Caracas with all this equipment, and that was like a terrible situation because but then at the end we could escape, and we made some nice shots also around, but this was a special moment, a lot of moments also inside the tower. So I felt also that there were inner fights also between getting up in this organization system, no? So I felt sometimes, okay, somebody might use me as a filmmaker with my camera to put a certain emphasis on different things, also to talk bad about the organization system, and to make a small revolution inside, no? Then I felt myself, okay, now somebody's going to use me, so I have to leave this person, and but yeah.
The relative distance of a professional. Open it up to the house.
My name is Shakil, I work for IIHS. Two questions. One is how this whole thing was inspired by the Occupy movement going on around the world. And the second thing is, was this shifting to the suburb area in the social housing was voluntary or it was the first eviction?
Yeah, second question, it was forced. So one time city administration decided to make intervention towards this building, and they said officially it's too dangerous to stay inside there. Imagine after 7 years when they tried to improve everything, they decided, okay, it's dangerous to stay inside, so now you have to go. And then the people inside were trying to negotiate with the city administration and fought also for this social housing complexes they got at the end. Yeah. And the first question, if it's connected to other occupation movements around the world, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, not at all. No. It's interesting that there are also official squads in Caracas which are supported by the government, or at least there were. No? There are some groups that, especially occupying fields or land in the outskirts of the cities, so that the people can settle there, and that is supported by the government. But in this case, there were no connection to any other occupying movement or anything else. There was just this leader person, which was killed also, no? Which you can see in the film, or no, you can see, but you can hear the story. And yeah, he was in the 20s, very young boy, but he had the ability also to get together a lot of people and to squat houses, and of course he touched somebody's interest. In this, in the past 20 squats he organized, just to give home to people. So I think he was a really good man. So that's at least what the people told me, but a lot of people, But also tried to get more inside this murder case, but that was more police investigation, so I didn't find an answer.
More questions?
This was a modern structure.
Could you introduce yourself, please?
Santosh Kalyani. This was modern structures. Modern structures typically live up 70, 80 years. There was a talk in the film where the architect talks about the steel rusting, and this was supposed to be a high-rise where the stakeholders had some spaces earmarked for them. So really, is this a case where they were trying to get these people out and then occupy the building for other users, or that justification doesn't find any rationale? The steel is going to melt, rust, and if they had planned it, then it should have lasted the test of time. Why do they need to pull it down again?
Yeah, I don't know exactly. There were so many possible solutions for this building at the end. No, there was interest from a Chinese bank also to buy it after the squat. Imagine, and to rebuild this original form of it, like a financial complex tower bank. Crazy after this history, I think. And I'm not sure if it's also possible, because there's, there were all these apartment constructions, these small walls inside and the small spaces of the people. So you have to tear down everything, And
Some of it is obvious in the sense that it was the central business district, and therefore there would be very serious commercial interests so long as the economic environment support large investments. I think it was just lying there in a particular way. It was, so a lot of things came together because of which this unique set of circumstances happened. But once, I'm sure, vultures were eyeing the building for a while. It was a very prime location. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Erin. What an amazing story of human resilience. I noticed that most of the people that you followed were women. You interviewed a few men, but most of the people that you kept going back to and who you showed the home spaces of were women. Was that a conscious decision that you made? Was it meant to be more humanizing? And then as a second question, did you follow up with any of the families and go to the social housing that they were allocated, and what were those situations like?
Second question, no, I didn't do that. I was thinking about also to go back when we got in contact and they told me, we have to leave. No, they shut down the building, no, the tower. So I was like really, but I was like in the end, like phase of editing the film. So then I was thinking, okay, to go back, and it was really secured also by the military police. So nobody could get inside, also no journalists could get inside, so it was, maybe I wouldn't have done it, you know, so I decided not, and no, I didn't went to the social housing complexes, I just like, I'm in contact with them, and at the beginning they had problems also there, because these were actually buildings which were promised to other people. Imagine then all these people from the squad came inside and occupied the new place, which was promised to other people. So at the beginning there were troubles with other,
and female protagonists.
Yeah, the female protagonists. No, it was they run the building at the end. You know, there were 28th floor, and for these 28 habited floors, there were 26 delegates that were running each floor, and just 2 men, imagine. And in the upper organization hierarchy, they were more like this inner security of the tower. These were men, you know, they were solving the problems when there were some fights or stuff like that. But the most of the work did the women, for sure. So that's why I kept my attention more to them.
One last question I would ask.
Good morning, sir. My name is Jay. Sir, I have it's your first trip to Delhi, and have you been to slums of Delhi? It is my question. And the slums of Delhi is worst, which we just saw right here. And I request you to please have a visit there, and we might get a sequel of this film like this. And it's just a regret because everybody sitting here would like to see the sequel of this.
You want a sequel in India, in Delhi? That's a good thought. So he's suggesting that he's asking you whether you visited a basti in Delhi. I think it's his first trip, so he's just taking in the. You spent some time.
Yeah, I spent some time. I visited also some by case some around this Yamuna river, and I was impressed also because I think there are a lot of tea plantations, a lot of like informal structure of housing, but a lot of people working there and planting the leaves of tea. I think they sell at the markets then, and I think they some days ago, 1 week ago, and getting lost a bit inside.
On that note, I think we should, so we've run out of time. But once again, thank you, Markus, for a wonderful film, and we hope your future work in Colombia, we hope to see some of that. As he's doing some very interesting work. His next project is in Colombia, tracing the peace process with the government and the FARC, and it's a long-range kind of thing. I think 3 years, is it? In 3 years, you're going to follow. It's completely open. We don't know what's going to come of it. And once again, I think it's wonderful, and hope you have a good time in India, in Delhi, and thanks.